Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayamudira Nastapresha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Bhakti Bhavani Nashtiki Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Vyasadeva Ki Jai. This chapter is entitled something about Lord Brahma. Does everybody know Brahma? Did you hear yesterday in yesterday's class that there are two Brahmas in this universe? I'd like for somebody to please look that up and point it out to me. For the past 46 years, I've been under the impression that there was only one Brahma per time period in the universe. So this may be something new for me to learn. He does play more than one role in the universe, however. What's the other one? Another guess. Lord Brahma. Yes. Oh. Pardon? Secondary creator? That's his primary role, isn't it? Until the advent of Lord Chaitanya. And then he becomes, thank you very much, Haridas Thakur, Nama Georgia. So if you will, do we have this up? Text number 3? So we're going to recite text 3 through 7. We'll just do the translations first. Well, actually, I will attempt to read the Sanskrit, and then I'm going to ask one of you to read the translations. Can you do that? So, text number 3. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, text number 3. I felt like I'm forgetting to do something. What have I not done? I think we'll wait. And I found that the meter changes after this text number 3, and text 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's another meter. So we'll attempt that. And so this one is the one that is for the Brahma Samhita, the meter for that. Jnane prayasam udapasya nam. That's not right. Jnane prayasam upapasya namamta eva. You want to repeat? Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam. Sane stita shruti gatum tanuvan. No, I did something wrong there. Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobir. Ye prayaso jitao pyasi taist trilokyam. Yeah, we'll come back to this now, and so we're going on to text number 4, and I will attempt the Sanskrit, and I'll ask someone to please read the translation when we're done. Shreya Shritim Bhaktim Udasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodha Labdaye Te Shammaso Klesala Eva Sishyate Nanyad Yata Stula Tusha Vagatinam. Somebody read the translation, please.
My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grains, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble.
And we're going to be talking in this class about that troublesome process. Okay, text number 5. I'll read the Sanskrit if I can. Pure habumam bahavo piyoginas tvad arpiteha nija karma labdhaya vibudya bhaktya katto panitaya prapedire nyo chutate gatim param. Translation?
Almighty Lord, the past are many yogis in this world achieve the platform of devotional service, the offerings, the elevators, and to the faith and you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties through such devotional service perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you. They came to understand you. O unfavorable one, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode.
Good, Sam. Thank you very much. Okay, text number 6. Tatapi bhuman mahima gunasyate vibodhum arhatyamalantar atmabi avikriyat svanubhavada rupato yananya bodhyatmataya nachanyata. Text, the
Non-devotees,
translation.
however, cannot realize you.
Need it louder, please. You got to speak louder.
Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion
Please read louder.
as the impersonal supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them.
Good. Thank you very much. And finally, text number 7. Gunatmanaste pigunan vimatum hitavatir nasya kashir ka ishiresya kalena yair vimita sukalpair Bhupamsava cheke mihika jabusa. And the translation?
In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities?
Raseshwari, thank you very much. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Marobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamaya Dharati Swabarantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yutta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karanasando Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivashesha Shunyavadi Pasdatire Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswaminiti Namane. Mystic power. It takes a lot of time and effort to gain that. If you're performing sacrifice tapa, such as Lord Brahma had to perform to gain the ability to create this entire universe. And what to speak of this universe, there are innumerable other universes with innumerable Brahmas in them. And so each, it is presumed, each has to perform tapasya. So it is very difficult then to gain those mystic powers. And I don't know about you all, maybe you know someone who was like me. Before you ever came to Krishna consciousness, there were reasons that you might have been, or that I might have been looking for something beyond the ordinary, because I found the ordinary to be quite boring. And this was after finishing my first college career and getting a job, getting married, and moving away to Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's where I landed up, close to the mountains, and I was very pleased with that. But it did not take me even 5 years to become thoroughly disgusted with what I saw going on around me, and it also, it was very difficult for me to fit into the situation in which I found myself, going to an office every day with the same group of people. And I didn't really blame it on them. I thought it was just me. I'm not very happy and satisfied with what I'm doing. So apparently, and according to our scriptures that we read, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam, there have been other very exalted personalities to enter our universe with great powers, and they perform great austerities to obtain mystic powers. We mentioned Lord Brahma. How many years was it? 100 years that he had to meditate to perform tapasya in order to gain the ability to do the task that had been handed him, and that was to create different kinds of lokas or planets for people like us to inhabit, and then to create specific kinds of bodies for those living entities that came into this universe. All of this is arranged initially by Lord Mahavishnu, Karanadakshayi Vishnu. And if I'm not wrong in this, I think I have read recently that the source of the Mahavishnu is Lord Balaram. Now, you might have to check on that and correct me for that, but I think, and I was surprised when I read that, that Lord Balaram, not only does he hold all the planets, not all the planets, all the universes on the hoods of his form known as Anantashesh, but if what I understood was true, he from his body, at least we'll go ahead and say, from the body of Mahavishnu, Karanadakshayi Vishnu, who lies on the causal ocean, which is between the material world and the Vaikunthas. Um, and from his body, from the pores of his body, come all the little golden seeds which become universes, and there are many of those. And then, so that's one Vishnu form. Then there's another Vishnu form that enters each of those universes, and his name is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. He lies on the Garbha ocean, which, according to the Shastras, occupies the lower half of this universe. And then there is yet a third Vishnu, and that is the one that resides on the island, the island of Svetadvip, and that is Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who also then becomes the supersoul within the heart of every living entity who takes birth in this material world. So this is all pretty mystic stuff, and we don't really know how it all happens except just by the words that are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there are personalities then who, for some reason or another, desire to have mystic powers in this universe. And some of them are very successful. And one of those personalities that I think of is Hiranyakashipu. And think about the trouble that he went to gain the powers in order to accomplish his particular ambitions in life. Then there was the personality known as Shalva. He's another person that I've been reading about recently in the second volume of the Krishna book. And Shalva was a friend of Shishupal, who was bested at the Swayamvara ceremony of Rukmini. And so when Shalva came to the not the Swayamvara, but the horse sacrifice, what's it called? Ashwamedha? Is that the name of the horse sacrifice? All right. Ashwamedha sacrifice. When he came there, Shalva, with his friend Shishupal, and he heard all of the cruel words that Shishupal was speaking against Krishna's being accepted as the foremost person in the sacrifice. And he saw that Krishna received all kinds of adulations and honor by all of the demigods who were present there, and kings and all of their consorts coming from other parts of the world to witness and take part in this Ashwamedha sacrifice. So Shalva, then, still being a friend of Shishupal and still bearing the grudge against Krishna, declared that he would kill Krishna. He was a little misinformed, of course. He didn't know the full scoop, but he took that vow that he would gain the power to kill Krishna, and I think also to cause all kinds of harassment to the dynasty to which Krishna belonged. What was it? What was the dynasty called? Yadus. The Yadus. And so he performs this sacrifice of eating nothing but ashes for, 100 years? And he gets the attention of Lord Shiva, who comes to him and asks him what he wants. And so Shalva said, I want a vehicle, I want an airplane that will cause harassment to the Yadavas. And also he had in mind that he was going to kill Krishna in the process. So these are two personalities, Hiranyakashipu and Shalva, who have spent a great deal of their lifetimes it's simply trying to get power and being successful at it. And so we find that the demigods even have the ability to bestow on lower living entities like us on this planet, and to bestow the powers that they want to accomplish their purposes. And a lot of times they're very evil purposes, because they want to take advantage of everyone else and lord it over them so that they can get the pleasure that they want. So can you think of anybody else who was particularly determined to gain mystic power? Anybody come to mind? Robin? Yes, Robin. And of course, he received some pretty potent benedictions there. But of course, he was also inimical to Lord Ramchandra. So there are all kinds of people who are wanting mystic powers besides just Rupanuga Das, coming along and getting really bored with his life and wanting to find out. Because I heard from somebody, a really strange kind of situation, a guy who came to talk to all of the new hires from Westinghouse Electric Corporation back in 1968. And this guy, smoking cigarettes the whole time, tried to give us some little insight as to what life could be, besides that which we saw every day. So that was kind of the first inkling that I ever had, coming from a really strange source, admittedly, that there was something that was available if I could just find a way to access it. So what are the reasons for wanting this kind of mystic power? Of course, to gain wealth, possessions, to be able to lord it over other people in this world, to gain a greater lifetime, like Hiranyakashipu. He wanted a body in which nobody would be able to kill him, and he named the different kinds of living entities that he didn't want to be able to kill him. But he didn't think to mention the one that actually did, and that was the half-man, half-lion incarnation. And so he wanted to extend his lifetime. And then there are people who are like me, and they just wanted to get some relief from the boredom of this everyday life. And so for all of you who are listening in and have jobs that you go to, you have my great respect for your ability to do that, to go and perform the same kind of job. And I know Brother Kunti has done that too, gone to the same office and dealt with a lot of times rude people on the telephone, and so it kind of makes us want something. But of course, I had not heard of Krishna consciousness, so I began reading books, whatever I could find, like "Be Here Now" by Baba Ram Das, and Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. And a few others. There was the books, A Yaqui Way of Knowledge by Carlos Castaneda, and two or three others. And so I thought that I could get some idea how to get into the position of being able to experience whatever there was happening concurrent with this, whatever's going on in this universe. I thought there had to be some way to find out how to get into that. But all of those paths that I looked at, just about all of them, were fraught with some dangers. So for one who is looking for these kinds of powers, there can be some dangerous situations that one has to. So when I found out, when someone finally gave me a book on Krishna consciousness, which happened to be part 3 of the first canto, it came out. This was in 1973. And a young man on the streets of Knoxville, Tennessee, I've told you all about this before. I saw a bunch of young men who were chanting, and I was having trouble. I was getting ready to drop out of society for a while. My hair had become very long, and my beard had become very long, and still I was working as an engineer for the Tennessee Valley Authority. But that was to be short-lived. And I thought that by leaving that kind of setting and going out and simply doing menial work and buying a piece of property with a shanty on it, and I thought that this is the way that I can regain some of the happiness that I remember from my childhood years growing up in rural Mississippi in a community that was primarily a farming community still in the early 1950s. Wasn't long after that before small-time farmers began to go out of business because they simply couldn't compete with the much larger multi-thousand acre ranches, in places. And so it was I felt like if I could get back to that kind of setting, which was very, very simple, getting water from a spring, going to using an outhouse and having wood heat for the home. I thought by doing that I could become satisfied and that I could attract other people to come and join me. But I was wrong. And it took the Bhagavad Gita to tell me what I should be doing. Somehow I had made contact with the community up in North Carolina, New Vrindavan community, and they were putting out a Brijavasi Spirit, a little monthly or weekly newsletter telling what they were doing up there. And so that kind of thing rather appealed to me. And so I talked to, and they were kind enough to begin sending me a little bit of literature, sending me some prasadam, and they sent me some really strange prasadam. It was like what we now know as burfi, but it had this tinfoil that had stuck to it. And I couldn't understand why they would put it in tinfoil that would stick to it, and then I'd have to peel off the tinfoil. Of course, I found out later that was silver, not tinfoil. And so I learned something from that experience of just corresponding with the New Vrindavan people. And there's one young man there that happened to be the editor of the Brijavasi Spirit who helped me a little bit, who talked with me by letters. And I guess, has anybody heard of Varshana Swami? He was the first person that I received a letter from New Vrindavan. And this was probably 1973, 74, something like that. So anyhow, we can get help. So there are those difficulties that we talked about in trying to gain mystic power, such as performing the austerities. Sometimes it produces unwanted side effects. When you gain some powers, then you gain also enemies, because you also gain pride, and there is still the pain that you have to undergo, and eventually death, giving up your body. So those are the downsides. It increases one's attachment to the material body. You all don't know a fellow that used to come to the temple quite a lot, and I did see him in recent months. But he would come. He was one of those persons that comes to our temple, and I mean regularly, and yet it just doesn't take. It doesn't take with him. So anyhow, he told me about having a power that he could make himself invisible. And he also told me about this young woman that he met who had some power that they could be driving down the street and she could point at a street light and zap it. Now, so this was his interesting mystical life. Now, of course, he had not read the Srimad Bhagavatam, so he didn't know what is actually available to one who can find a way to get into that kind of environment on a regular basis. But what are you going to do with it? So generally, from what I have seen, it doesn't really help the people who gain some little bit of power. We've heard of people who could produce ashes in their hands or a little bit of gold or something like that, do something really insignificant compared to what persons like Hiranyakashipu, Shalva were able to accomplish with their mystic powers. And we know that that mystical power. I know from dealing with this person that mystic powers don't produce love for other people. You might be able to entertain them. And he said he was one time sitting in the room. This same person was sitting in a room with some other people, and he had told them about his ability to become invisible, and so they wanted a demonstration. So he did. He was able to become invisible, and so it startled the people that were with him. That one fellow, he said, stepped over a table, getting out of the place. It scared him so much. So, what's the benefit? To entertain somebody else or just entertain yourself? And so that's the kind of thing that I thought might bring me happiness, and the reason that I got into reading various kinds of things. But I found out that it took something that I really didn't have, and that was the willingness to go out to the deserts of New Mexico and look for an old Indian sorcerer, or to go to the Himalayas and try to find somebody there who could bestow on me some knowledge by which I could become a mystic. So this is what I want. So by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, I began to get a new understanding. For example, that Krishna is the master of all mystics. That's one thing that I found out early on. And the process that he was the only proponent of that I knew of, was the making people happy and giving them a process by which they could become joyful without the fear that accompanied all the other methods of mysticism that I had read about before. No fear to this method that he was proposing. And we found out that, I found out that by just taking up the process of reading a little bit, that eventually more and more would be given to me. I was able to get the association of some very friendly, loving people, even before I came into the physical contact with other people. And then when I did come into contact with them, then that really started a change entirely. I was able to see how this Krishna consciousness thing could maybe not provide the mystical occasions that I was reading about other people having, but it could give me a lot of satisfaction, peace of mind, and let me know that just by performing this simple program of bhakti, I came to know it as bhakti, and one of the first things I ever did was go around gathering flowers wherever I could find them, wildflowers growing, to decorate someone's altar. And this was a pleasant experience. And meeting with people on Sundays to have a Sunday program. And when there was only the couple who owned the house, and then they would invite a few more people in. And just that kind of activity gave me more satisfaction than I ever received out of any other attempts that I made to gain this mystical power. I found out that help was readily available. Whatever spiritual gain that I made in this lifetime, or was able to get, would not go away, and that the end of this lifetime is like the door being opened to a new realm somewhere else, somehow else, that I had never really experienced before. And I found out that what's on the other side of the door was very beautiful and very peaceful and without anxiety. Vaikuntha. So my desires began to become satisfied, and I feel that I started developing qualities that were appreciated by other people more than the qualities that I gained by going out on my own and trying to be a back to the lander or trying to be a mystic somehow or other. Those did not really give me qualities that would be that much attractive to other people. So when you do begin to change your nature and people appreciate you, then you know what real friendship is like. And I found out also that this path toward mysticism or toward freedom or toward Vaikuntha can relieve one of boredom. So that's what has brought us to this point, and I suspect that maybe something similar has come to other people who have experienced the same kind of thing. And Krishna has stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Then this is not the verse. The verse that I read that really got me started on this path of devotion was the one in which Krishna tells Arjuna that it is safer to perform the activities which are for you, the kind that are suit you, than to, and even though it be apparently faulty, than to try to perform the activities of another, even though it appeared to be faultless. So I thought, well, I'm not doing the right thing because I'm not making any progress. And so then I was able to get, and then I came to this statement, yad yad vibhutimat sattvam. Does anybody know that verse? Srimad urjitam evava, tad eva vachat gacha tvam, mama tejo sa sambhavam. And what is that, Gokulan Prabhu? You know what
Wherever see anything wonderful, just
paraphrase.
yeah, just paraphrasing. Anything wonderful you see, understand that it's but a spark of my splendor, or something like that.
There you go. Yeah, and I thought this was very encouraging me. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So I found out that this material world has unlimited numbers of universes, each having unlimited numbers of living entities like myself and in other kinds of bodies. And somehow or other, this is not even taking up Krishna's time away from his sporting along the banks of the Jamuna with his boyfriends and harassing the little gopi girls on the path to wherever they're going to take their butter. So this is my experience with Krishna consciousness and my experience with mystical power or endeavors to gain powers beyond what are in this lifetime. And I would invite you now to ask questions or to present other things, ideas that have come to mind. Sam, let's wait until somebody else speaks first. Are you listening?
What mystic powers did you get? What mystic powers did you get?
What mystic? Is this a trick question? What mystic powers did I get? I got the ability to rise at early in the morning to chant my rounds. Is that a mystic power? Well, if you talked with me about 40, 50 years ago, I would have said, no, I can't do that. You know, that's going to take some mystic power that I don't have. So I think that's just a very practical thing. And seeing how Srila Prabhupada, or hearing how Srila Prabhupada was able to get up on 1.5 hours of sleep and spend his entire day in translating, giving purports, and going to meetings and handling legal affairs and teaching young men and women who had no training whatsoever to do the marvelous deeds that they performed. Maybe I don't have so many mystic powers myself yet, but I do see it in other people. And then I've heard, of course, the things that happen on a flight with Srila Prabhupada. Have you heard that one about Srila Prabhupada? He had his servant sitting beside him, and they had brought some prasadam, and so Prabhupada asked him to please open it up and let's have some prasadam. And one of the stewardesses, the airline hostesses, came by and looked down and took her hand and reached and got something off Prabhupada's plate and put it in her mouth. Now, this is pretty rare, right? Did you hear what happened later as a result of that? Someone was on Sankirtan, book distribution, in one distant country. It seems to me that it was Eastern European country. And he came upon this house with a lady came to the door, and he said, I've got some books to show you. And she invited him in, and he went in, and there were pictures of Krishna and Prabhupada all over the walls in that house. And of course, this was pretty startling to this young man. And he began to ask her about her, how did you do this? And she said, well, you know, I was working as a stewardess at one time, and there was this gentleman that had some food that he, yeah, you got it, you got the picture. This was a lady who had reached and gotten that prasadam off Prabhupada's plate. And now here she was, nobody around her, apparently practicing Krishna consciousness. And this devotee just happened to come up there trying to sell her some books. And he found her. And this is just one of many such occurrences. Is that a mystical power, would you say, Prabhupada Priya Devi? I think so. That's rare. Things like that don't just happen. Anything else? Yes, Gokulan.
I can clearly see one more mystical power in you, which is you were a hippie and you turn into happy.
Yes. Yes, because as a back to the lander at the time, I wasn't a really good hippie because I was too middle class in my values. I never got quite to that point that I saw other people around me. And it was not attractive to me. That kind of lifestyle that they were living was not. So anyhow, just by looking, just kept looking. And you know, if you look long enough, then Krishna will send something to you. So, you know, when one is ready for the spiritual master appears.
I'm sorry if I said that, but I think I misunderstood because you said you had a long beard and long hair. That's what I just conjectured.
Yes. That was it. And I also drove a VW minibus, microbus, which was the only vehicle I think I've ever had break down on a road trip between Tennessee and Mississippi to visit our folks. So I made a lot of mistakes, and I think I look at it now, Gokulanand Prabhu, as though Srila Prabhupada was just, it was like Krishna's waiting to send Prabhupada to me. And when I got that book in 1973, incidentally, I can remember the exact date. It was June the 13th, because it was 4 days after my first child arrived. And so, you know, when you want something really badly, and it's actually good for you, then Krishna will see that you get it. So that's the only way that I can explain how it happened that Prabhupada came to me. And I never saw Prabhupada in the flesh. I only saw him in videos, but I knew him from his books. I read his books and I knew him. And I can remember sometime about the same time that I got that one verse in the Bhagavad Gita about doing performing one's own dharma or function. About the same time, let's see, I was relating that to something and it suddenly slipped my mind. Anyhow, so those things, I remember what it was. Yeah, about the same time, Prabhupada was, he was speaking in his books that you need to find a bona fide representative of Krishna and accept that person as your spiritual master. And I didn't have anybody around me who was devotees. So I thought, where can I find such a person? And then the thought came to me, why don't you be my spiritual master? And so Prabhupada was. He was my first spiritual master. I say first, maybe I should say second after Jesus Christ. He was first spiritual master. But Prabhupada is the one who actually came and saved me. And for some reason, we were not able to see him or take initiation from him while he was still on the planet. I heard about him with a book in 73, but it wasn't until 1979 that we actually moved here to Dallas. And, of course, during that time, Srila Prabhupada left in 77. But Prabhupada left for me a person who could be my spiritual master. And I think that was part of Krishna's plan, because I think Krishna knew very well, and of course he knew very well, that I was not in any way ready to follow the instructions of a spiritual master when I first got my book in 73. So he made me wait until after Prabhupada's departure until he sent Tamal Krishna Goswami. And for a number of reasons, that was a good thing for me, because I got a lot of training from my spiritual master that I would not have been able to get from Srila Prabhupada. And I also found out more about what Srila Prabhupada was like from this person than I could have gotten even if I had access to see Srila Prabhupada occasionally in the 1970s. Yes, sir.
Another mystique power that I see from you is the simplicity of heart that you have. And it is extremely hard to have that simple heart. Even Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, or people like me, I just have this difficult time to have that simplicity that you have. Thank you very much for your association.
He's going That's because I'm a simple ton. It's not hard to have a simple heart if you're a simpleton. But thank you very much for that. It's the people around me. I'm simply reacting to the people like you that I get to meet being here in this community. And if anything has helped me to give up my hippie nature and become happy, then it's that. It's other people being around them and seeing how Krishna consciousness affected their lives, and it's made them the kind of person that they are. Powerful stuff, mystical stuff, this Krishna consciousness. Sam, do you want to speak now?
Yeah.
Thank you for being patient.
I'm glad of it.
Okay, now speak into the microphone.
I will.
Hold it close.
Okay. When I was about 39 years old, I mentioned Tobias that Samuel told everybody Samuel is a special devotee of Lord Krishna. When I opened a Krishna art book and Krishna have his hair like a horn on the kind of like have his horn look like a horn on the right head and peacock feather on the left and dark blue skin. I said 3 times, imagine Krishna bugging out his eyes. He bugged out his eyes and scared the hell out of me.
All right, now let me get my helper here to explain to me.
He was bugging out his eyes. Christian have his hair kind of like a horn, and peacock feather and leather and dark blue skin. I said 3 times. Imagine Krishna bugging out his eyes. He bug out his eyes.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah.
Krishna sends whatever we need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that's what you needed at that point in your life, then you got it. But now look what you have. And you're sitting here in the temple room, and Krishna's right up here on the altar.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of difference between that picture you saw
Mm-hmm.
and this picture that you're seeing here in this 3-dimensional picture that you're seeing here, isn't it? All right, thank you for that, Sam. And I won't. Was there anything else that yes, Mother Prabhupada Priya. Make it easy, please. Don't give me a hard question.
Hare Krishna, just a comment. Maybe Nanda Braj, you can go translating it bit by bit. I mean, relaying it bit by bit. So I was reflecting on what you said about how you were searching for satisfaction and happiness. And you looked for it, you know, in back to the land. You looked for it in your just career and mystic powers, and none of them brought satisfaction.
All right, let me get a translation here.
So you were looking for satisfaction, you were looking for it by going into the country or looking at it through career or in so many ways, but you couldn't find satisfaction.
And I was thinking,
Yeah, and then I heard this song, I can't get no
and you resonated.
satisfaction.
And I was thinking how Krishna, you know, he's not that bothered about mystic powers. You know, when people have mystic powers, he's not impressed because he's the master of mystic powers. But Krishna is conquered by love.
So even when people have mystic powers, Krishna is not. That's why the master of that is conquered by love.
And then you were saying how what actually finally gave you satisfaction was coming into the association of devotees and feeling those loving, caring relationships.
She thought that what was interesting was that when you started finding satisfaction in coming into contact with association with devotees who were showing love and care.
And I was just reflecting that the same thing that brings us satisfaction is what gives Krishna satisfaction.
Contemplating that the same thing that gives Krishna satisfaction is the same thing that gives us satisfaction.
And that's love, right? Loving relationships. And I also want to appreciate you, Rupanuga Prabhu, because you're a very loving devotee. You know, I feel like I've been in this community just for a couple of years, and I've felt a lot of care and a lot of love from you, and Mother Jayanti, and I just wanted to appreciate you for being that kind, loving presence in our community.
I was thinking, finally we get the truth. Just giving back what's coming to us. You supply the love and it comes back to you. Isn't that nice? But I can be bad sometimes.
I believe you.
Yes. Manjari Gopika Devi.
Hare Krishna. Always love hearing your classes, Prabhu. I just wanted to say I had a similar experience when I got out of college. I had a very nice upbringing. It was, happy, and I did all the things I was supposed to do. I was a good student. I was a good daughter. But then when I graduated college and I had to navigate the world and get a job and work, there was just this emptiness, and I felt like a depression. And I kept looking around at everybody else, and nobody else seemed to be having that problem. I was the only one that was thinking, isn't there something else, or why am I not happy? And anyway, it took me a few years, but I eventually found the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And that was, and I'm still so attached to that book because that is what changed my life. That is what ended up bringing me joy and purpose. I don't know if you need a translation.
Right now. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Also resonates with your story because she graduated from college and she was finding it very depressing. But when she was looking around,
No.
when she was looking around, other people weren't feeling the same way, that depression. And so it took a little while, but after a couple of years, she found Bhagavad Gita. And it's great because she really appreciates Bhagavad Gita.
And then I'd also like to appreciate Mother Jayanti, because you said sometimes you can be a handful. I was in the prasadam line with her a while ago. I always have great conversations in the prasadam line. She was behind me. Anyway, you had recently at that point celebrated your 50-something wedding anniversary. How long have you been married? How long have you been married, Prabhu?
Jerry Gopika recently in line with the Sodom, with Jayanti went to for that. And they had a great conversation. She heard that you guys were married for over 50 years. How many years? 50? Put them on the spot.
Let's see. In 2028, that will be 6.
We're
So I guess we will have to
58.
say that this year is 26. Huh?
58. Yeah, so 58 years you've been married.
58.
Okay.
This year.
So I said to her, I couldn't remember the year, but when I found out how long you were married, I said, oh, so are you the only person who can control Rupanuga Prabhu? And she laughed and she said, nobody can control Rupanuga Prabhu.
One person could. I understood that, by the way. Sorry about this hearing thing, folks. It comes with time. If you live if you get to be my age, you might have similar. But yeah, there's one person that could, and that was Tamal Krishna Goswami. But actually, he's not the only one, because I've been taught that we're supposed to subordinate ourselves to our temple authorities. And Tamal Krishna Goswami once said that in the absence of the spiritual master, your authority is your temple president. And he meant that sincerely. It wasn't that he was just kind of saying, he's a really nice guy, you can kind of go talk to. No, he's your authority. And so I've taken that to be the case here because, of course, I haven't had my spiritual master physically present since 2002. And that's 24 years now. But I know who to go to when I have questions. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I know who to go to. And it's really good to have. And I have also other people that I can talk to, and I was almost tempted to say my god brothers, but I've got Gokulananda's my god brother, and so many other god brothers. This guy right here, Nandabraj, is my god brother. You may be a little younger than I am, but still, if I need advice, if I need some help on some particular point, I can go to you. I feel comfortable going to you and getting, and that's not just my god brothers either, my god sisters too. I've got quite a few of them scattered around here that can give me advice and tell me when to shut my mouth. Shall we quit? Anybody hungry? Thank you all for coming and staying with me. And it's to you I offer my obeisances, because you're just like desire trees. You fulfill the desires of everyone, and you're full of compassion for the fallen edition. So, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patinanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah anantakoti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Kalatanjidam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand.